Okay, so we have done, how to get the planned assets recorded on our books at their cost. We've looked at depreciation methods for allocating that cost. Now we get into a little more detail. What happens if we, figure out our depreciation schedule and then something happens to change the, some change happens that changes either our estimated salvage value or the estimated life of whatever vehicle or piece of equipment it is, and we need to revise our estimates. A couple of pictures can show different things that could happen. Okay, so how does this work? When we have to revise our estimate, so when we started this, we're starting with the, wait a minute here, this should be, what am I doing? This should be 32, let me do that. Oh, wait a minute. All right, I gotta start this one over.
Yeah, let's go. Let's keep it
Oh,
rolling.
all right, okay.
Easier to figure it out.
All right. Let me do it this way. Okay, 10,000. This wouldn't even work. Oh yeah, it would. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. So this is where it starts again. Okay, so we have put our assets on the books. We've figured out how to do the costing. We've figured out the various ways to allocate the cost over the useful life with the depreciation methods. Now we get into a little bit more detail. What happens if we've figured out how we're going to depreciate the asset? So here we'll take one that costs $10,000 with an estimated salvage of $2,000 and an estimated life of 8 years. So it's probably not a truck at $10,000, but we'll just put it's a machine at $10,000. How's that? Machine A, we'll even be more specific. Okay, so now we're 3 years into this machine and maybe something happened. There was some major change in the way we're using the machine, or something has happened that we've got to change the estimated useful life of this machine. Maybe it's been treated badly, not maintained properly, who knows. But anyway, at this point, a few years have gone by. We've taken $3,000 worth of depreciation. Okay, so we started out with a cost of 10. Okay, we said, okay, we estimate the salvage value will be 2, so we've got 8,000 depreciable base divided by the 8-year estimated life. It gives us depreciation expense of the $1,000 per year we've been taking. But now there's been a change, and so maybe a couple of years into this, after we've taken the depreciation, it's been used more than expected, and so now we think that it'll only have an estimated salvage of maybe 1,000 instead of 2,000, and perhaps it's only going to last, instead of 8 years altogether, now it's going to just last 2 more years. So how do we work this out? Well, the first starting point, it's a 2-step process. You start with the current book value of the machine or the equipment. Current book value, cost, less accumulated depreciation to date. So that would be 10,000 less the 3,000. So we're starting with the cost at the moment. We're starting with the current book value. So this is our starting point when we do the revision, current book value. Okay, so the current book value is 10,987,000. And then we just do our depreciation calculations as we did before. Now we estimate the salvage is going to be 1,000. And so we do that. And so we've got a depreciable base now of 6,000. We think it's only going to last 2 more years, divided by 2, and done. 3,000 is our ongoing depreciation expense. This is not regarded as an error. It's a change in estimate. We don't do anything that we don't revise anything that we've done before. We simply use this amount going forward. So working through a couple of these examples will probably help make more sense. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is just what about if we didn't buy the truck or the piece of equipment on January 1st? Everything we've done so far assumes that we took a full year's depreciation the first year. So what if we, we'll go back to the example we used before here where we had the $32,000 piece of equipment, 2,000 estimated salvage, estimated life of 4 years, or 150,000 miles. But instead of buying this on January 1, what if we bought it on May 1st, okay? So if it was purchased on May 1st, the basic rule to know here is you can't depreciate something that you don't own. So we can't depreciate this from January to April because we didn't even own it then. We can only depreciate it from May to December, that first year. The years after that, presumably, it would have a full year's depreciation. So how does that work with straight line? Well, we do, here's the cost of 32 minus the estimated salvage of 2, depreciable base of 30, divided by 4 years. This should all be very familiar because we've done it before. Gives you 7,500 per year. But that's for the year. So what are we going to do? Well, if we use our handy calculator, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 8 months. So we're going to multiply this times 8/12 because we owned it for 8 months this year. And so we would get depreciation expense for year 1 of 5,000. Okay, so that's with straight line. What about units of activity? Do we have to adjust that for the time? Well, if we think about that for a minute, say we drove 40,000 miles the first year. Does it matter whether that was over 12 months or 3 months or 2 months? No, we're just measuring it in miles. So units of activity does not need to be adjusted for any partial periods. It's only straight line and double declining balance that get adjusted. So with the double declining balance, we would go through the initial calculations of, you take the 32,000, this is for the double declining balance, times the double declining balance rate, which would be the 50%, is that right? Using, yeah. Let me get this right here. We do the, wait a minute. Oh, I see what I did. You just have to bear with me here. Okay, so with the double declining balance, you're going to calculate it as you did before. We do the, it's a 4-year life, so the rate is 50%. So that would be 16,000. You're simply going to take that 16,000 times the 8/12, and you would get your number, okay, for the first year. So that's your revising the depreciation expense once you've had some change, and then adjusting for partial periods with just straight line and your double declining balance. Okay.